All right, guys, good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's Tuesday evening, the 15th of March. We're recording our meeting tonight just so we can share it with any parents who were not able to join us tonight. Dr. Smith is in the room tonight, and she's going to be monitoring the chat for me. Our purpose tonight is to spend some time just kind of updating our eighth grade parents on some end of year events and also talking about an upcoming field trip that we are excited about. So I'm going to attempt to advance slides tonight and talk through the agenda. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to put them in the chat this evening. I think Dr. Smith will be able to respond to several of them as we go along, but then we'll also have a Q&A time at the end of our session tonight. I want to begin by updating all of our parents and community members on the Guilford County bond that is going to be on the ballot in May. We're going to spend some time talking about that for just a moment. We're going to talk about the field trip to Atlanta that is now underway in our planning, and then also some end of year dates. And of course, just follow up with our scholar staff event that is scheduled for Friday of this week. Let me just talk about the bond that is going to be on the ballot. So in May of 2022, which is coming up very, very soon, there is a $1.7 billion school bond that is going to be on the ballot that will allow the county to address several of our critical safety and maintenance needs in Guilford County schools. It's an opportunity to build new schools. It's an opportunity to repair HVAC units and roofs and other things that have just been neglected for many, many years. And so there's a large percentage of our schools, actually about 50% of them, that are found to be in either poor or unsatisfactory condition. Allen J. Prep is pretty lucky because in 2011, there was a bond that was passed, and we received $13 million to renovate the entire Allen J. Prep campus, which is where your scholar attends school. So the fact that your scholar attends school in a clean and safe environment and has a good roof that doesn't leak and an HVAC unit that works most of the time, that's because of the bond that was passed way back in 2011. And we put that into play in 2013. And so now this new bond is needed to touch many other schools. So I want you to be aware that that is going to be on the ballot in May. And I want to just answer a couple of questions that might be important in the last few or in the upcoming months. The first thing is, how do we pay for a school bond? So once a bond is passed, the school bond has to be paid for in some way. There's two ways that you can pay for a school bond. One is all Guilford County residents that own a home can pay increased real estate taxes or home taxes. Nobody wants that. The other is for a sales tax. And so what is being recommended and is on the ballot in May is a quarter of a cent or a fraction of a penny increase in sales tax. What that would mean is that if you went to Lowe's Hardware and you bought a box of nails that cost $20, you would pay $20.05. That's what a quarter of a cent sales tax is. It's actually 1/4 of 1 penny of an increase. So I want you to be aware of that. These bonds will be used to pay for, once again, the building of new schools, the acquisition of new land, and lots of improvements all across the district. Every single school in the district, there's 126 schools and multiple other facilities and buildings, would receive something. Allen J. Prep is on the docket to have an increased influence in the district by having an Allen J. Prep East built through this bond, which would be in Greensboro, and also to have a 612 program in High Point. So every school would be touched, and I want you to be aware of what that school bond looks like. The vote is going to be held on May the 17th. I think it's really important that each one of you are aware of it, and you can find lots of information by looking at schoolbondfacts.com. And so I just want to spend a couple minutes tonight just making you aware of the vote that is going to be on the ballot in May. There's actually two votes. One is to pass the school bond, and the other one is to vote on the quarter of a cent sales tax. So I want you to be an informed voter when you go to the polls. Okay. So tonight, the majority of our time is going to be talking about this eighth grade field trip that is coming up. I want to just remind everyone that Allen J. Prep has had a pretty storied tradition of moving scholars across the state, having an opportunity to visit things like college campuses and other city venues to really get out and learn in a hands-on kind of way. And so basically 2 years ago this week, we had to cancel a Washington, D.C. trip for our current sixth grade scholars, which is your scholar. And we also had to cancel a New York City trip for our then eighth grade scholars because of the outbreak of COVID-19. And since that time, we haven't been able to travel or take any field trips at all. However, recently, we've had an opportunity to now begin planning trips. And so we feel it incumbent upon us to give this eighth grade scholars, this cohort of young people, an opportunity to experience something the Alan J. Way. And so what we are proposing tonight is a field trip to Atlanta, Georgia on June 8th and June 9th. And I'm going to share the itinerary with you tonight. What we are hoping to do is to take all of our eighth grade scholars to Atlanta. This is after end of grade test, the final week of school, and give them an opportunity to do things like visit the CNN headquarters, to go to the World of Coke, to visit the Georgia Aquarium, to go to Centennial Park, to go to Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is where Dr. King and his father pastored for many years, to see the memorial to Dr. King and to Coretta Scott King, to go to the College Football Hall of Fame, to go to the National Civil Rights Museum. Just goes on and on and on. Atlanta is a fabulous city that you can do so many great things in a short amount of time, including catching an Atlanta Braves game. So we are looking to take all of our scholars. We hope everybody will participate to Atlanta. And getting into SunTrust Stadium in downtown Atlanta is one of the opportunities that we have as well. They play at home on June the 8th against the Oakland Athletics. And currently they are the reigning World Series champions. So we'd love to get a chance to see them. So tomorrow, your scholar is going to bring home a letter. It is going to be front and back. It's going to look like this. And it's going to have all the information about the trip that I'm trying to summarize in a very brief parent meeting tonight. But it basically says the itinerary is to purchase the city pass to go to Atlanta, Georgia, leaving early on the morning on June the 8th, to take in each one of those opportunities to visit the venues that we mentioned, to go to a Braves game that night, to stay overnight in a hotel, to get up, to do the remainder of that trip on that Thursday, the 9th, and then to travel back home to High Point that evening. The cost of the trip, we've worked with some of our vendors and some of our tour companies to get that price as low as we can, but things have increased, and we recognize that and want to share that with families. Just the cost of fuel alone has increased. However, we have the cost of the trip currently slated at $400. Now, I want to remind everybody that year after year, our PTA has worked with our families to put dollars directly back into individual student accounts for all of the fundraising efforts. So when your scholar was a sixth grader, they had an opportunity to participate in a World's Finest Chocolate fundraiser. Those dollars did not get spent because the trip was canceled. And again, this year, we were able to offer that opportunity. So every box of chocolate that your scholar sold way back in the sixth grade, and then again in this year, the PTA is putting $15 towards your scholar's account on this particular field trip. So let's just say that your scholar sold, let's go big. Let's say you were a big seller and you sold 10 boxes of chocolate. We all know that 10 times $15 is 150. That's $150 all for the cost of your scholar's trip, okay? So that's a little bit of information to share there. Also, we have another fundraiser going, which is our scholar staff event that is Friday evening. That is a fundraiser, and the purpose of that fundraiser is to bring in dollars that can then be pushed out to scholar field trips, not just eighth grade, but across the school. So there may be some additional dollars coming in there. We have about 112 seats available on this trip, and we're going to have some spots that are open for some parent chaperones as well. The cost of the parent chaperone seat is exactly the same as the scholar, except I can't give any PTA dollars to parents. But if you are interested, I'm going to talk about how parents can also join us on this trip. So again, just to go back through kind of like what the itinerary is, we would leave early on the morning of June the 8th. That's a Wednesday morning. We would travel to Atlanta. We would have an opportunity to go to the World of Coke, the Georgia Aquarium, the Football Hall of Fame, Ebenezer Baptist, all the things I mentioned, go to a Braves game that night, get up, do the rest of those venues the following day, and then travel back home on June the 9th. So I'm asking tonight that you consider this trip for your scholar. I know that $400 is a lot of money. I realize it's the middle of March, but we felt as a staff member, as a staff, and as a PTA board who I met with last Monday, we felt like this was a good opportunity to really give this 8th grade cohort a chance to experience some normalcy and a chance to experience some of what Allen J. Prep had provided to previous cohorts in the past. So again, tomorrow, this letter is coming home. One of the most important components of the letter is going to be on the back side, where it's going to give you a timeline. And it is a relatively aggressive timeline because this trip is in the first week of June. We're already in March. So we're talking about less than 3 months away. But what we are asking families to do is to consider if your scholar will participate in this trip, and if so, to make a $100 deposit by next Thursday, which is March the 24th. Now, that will secure your scholar's seat on this trip. If you are a chaperone that is interested in participating in the trip as well, you would also have a $100 deposit due next Thursday, March the 24th. What we will do with chaperones is we'll want to fill every seat that we have on the bus. So the order of the chaperone deposit will determine the order of chaperones that are provided an opportunity to participate in this trip. I will say that if you are chaperoning, it is way more convenient if we have the same gender chaperone as the scholar. For example, I have an 8th grade son. If I participate as a chaperone, then my son stays in the room with me. We share a double bed or a queen bed, and there's 2 other scholars in the room, so we get the quad rate. However, if my wife goes, my wife probably can't sleep in the same room with my son and then 2 other 8th grade boys. So it makes it a little bit more complicated. So I want you just to think about that as you think about if you could possibly participate in chaperoning this trip. But we do want chaperones to go. And so therefore, when you receive that letter, please review the information and consider if you can participate as a chaperone. Something else that is really important, I know my camera is not fantastic, but when you get this letter, it's going to tell you how many dollars you have available based on your scholar's participation in the fundraisers 2 years ago and then this year. So again, if you sold 2 boxes of chocolate, you would see a total of $150 written right here, and that might help you make a decision about whether or not your scholar can participate in the upcoming trip. So the timeline has a deposit being paid March 24th, a second payment of $150 by April the 14th, which is right before we get out for spring break, and the final deposit of $150 being due on May the 6th. This trip is all inclusive at $400. So if you pay $400 for your scholar to attend this trip, they really don't need any more money sent with them. It'll pay for every meal, every snack, every venue they visit, and every event we go to. It will all be covered. Of course, you're welcome to send spending money, as scholars may want to purchase something in addition. However, $400 is the cost of the trip. So please keep that in mind. A couple other end of year dates, and then we'll take a couple minutes to answer any questions that you might have. I know parents have been waiting on some dates, and I apologize that it's taken us a certain amount of time to get these things laid out for you, but it has been a challenge. This has been a tough year, but now that things have begun to open up, we've done our best and we've been as diligent as we can to begin planning aggressively for the end of the year, because I love the end of the year. I love celebrating with our scholars. I love seeing a cohort complete the program at Allen J. Prep, and these young men and women certainly deserve our absolute best. So mark these dates on your calendar. They'll be coming out in next Monday's email as well. But May the 31st, that's a Tuesday. The 30th is Memorial Day. May the 31st is a Tuesday, is the first day of our end of grade and end of course test. Your scholar in 8th grade has to take a variety of tests. Most of them will be taking a math test, a reading test, and a science test. So 3 days of testing, the 31st, the 1st, and the 2nd. Most of our scholars will be testing for 3 straight days. On that Saturday, we have rented out Rockers Stadium in High Point, which is where the High Point Rockers play on Elm Street, for our 8th grade ceremony. It is on a Saturday. It is at 11 o'clock in the morning on June the 4th. Plan now. There is a fee associated with that. There is a $20 fee per scholar, and that allows you to bring as many kids, as many family members, as many, you come deep if you want to come deep. You can bring as many people as you want for a $20 fee. If you have any issues with that fee, let me know and I will do everything I can to assist you and your family. But that event is Saturday, June the 4th, okay? There will be a reception to follow that event. It's an opportunity for our scholars to have some time together, music playing, food provided, cutting of a cake. This is a good opportunity to really celebrate our kids. You can bring some balloons, some flowers, and you can scream like crazy when I call your scholar's name. We'll be at Rocker Stadium. All right, so that's June the 4th. Then the following week is when we would have the trip to Atlanta on Wednesday and Thursday, and the last day of school is scheduled for June the 10th, okay? So a couple of things to think about. I told you that Friday night, we still have another fundraiser going on. So I do want to remind our families, like you could go on K-12, which is the payment system that we are utilizing and encouraging parents to utilize to pay for this trip. And you could pay $400 as soon as it's opened up for your scholar. Some of you have the ability to do that. You want to just do that and knock it out. Well, you could, but I want to remind you, like I'm trying to get that price down. So if we have a good turnout on Friday night, the PTA board's going to meet again. They may knock $15, $20 off the cost of this trip to help out families. So we're really pushing this fundraiser event that's scheduled for Friday. It starts at 5 o'clock. That's when the doors open. If kids have bought a ticket, they can stay after school. We'll hang out together in the Rock Gym. Then we'll move over to the main gym. There'll be food there. There'll be games there. There's like pulled pork barbecue. There's pizza. There's all kinds of great popcorn, drinks, snacks. So you can purchase a bunch of things. The event starts at 5:30 with the game. I'm going to be suiting up. I'm really excited. We'll stretch my legs a little bit. We're going to play some ball, but there's a lot of opportunities for kids to take part in the Scholar Staff event, okay? It is a fundraiser, so we're inviting all of our parents to attend, but there is a fee for getting in. It's $5 for an adult. Any ticket bought at the door by a student is $3. And then you can buy whatever you want after that. There'll be shirts and AJP swag there. And of course, lots of food and opportunities to take part in like a half court challenge, a 30-second challenge. It's all basketball related. Your scholar knows all about it. But again, those dollars will support the scholar field trips, not just 8th grade trips, but other trips that are going on. So I encourage you to take part in that as well. But again, pause and don't necessarily, even if you have the means, don't necessarily go and pay the immediate $400 to pay for that trip, because I may be able to get it down a little bit after we see what the fundraising effort looks like. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. This is the end of the presentation tonight, and we're going to take, I got 12 minutes, and I'm going to see if I can answer any questions that you guys have. I haven't seen the chat because I'm presenting and Dr. Smith may have been answering some questions there. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute and see if I can look at the chat. And if you have a question and you would like to turn your mic on to ask that, you are more than welcome to. But remember, this letter is coming home tomorrow. Please review it with your scholar. It has lots of answers that hopefully I've tried to address tonight, but other things I can answer tonight, I'll pause and see if I can answer any questions.
Hi, Dr. Wheat. This is Miss Davis. I wanted to know, will the students have a formal, like the other students did, 8th grade formal or anything like that?
It's a good question. So at this time, there is not a formal scheduled because of the challenge of trying to plan all these things in a short amount of time. And what we, as the 8th grade planning team, decided was that we wanted to be sure the scholars had an opportunity for this trip, and we wanted to prioritize the trip over the formal. And so we put the formal, if you will, in combination with the celebration on June 4th. And we have paid additional opportunity to stay at Rocker Stadium for a reception. Music will be played there. They can dance there. They can have their time together there. We have a full 3 hours in the stadium. So at this time, there is not a formal planned, but it's a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I see a question from Mr. Tillman about money loaded on K-12 for the cafeteria. I'm gonna have to get an answer to that because I'm not 100% sure. Our school nutrition account is not connected with the school account. It's a totally different account. So I'll have to get an answer to that for you, sir. I'm not 100% sure.
Hey, Dr. Wheat.
I hear you. Yes,
Hey,
sir.
this is Chris. I, as a manager of youth programming, I do realize that we have to send our parents, chaperones, and volunteers through background checks before attending any trip, particularly those trips that they're staying with students. Will parent chaperones have to undergo that with Alan J?
It's a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. Guilford County Schools policy is that if you are going to chaperone a trip and you are going to basically be the individual responsible for supervising students, you will have to complete a background check. It's a simple link, and Guilford County Schools conducts that. Yes, sir. Thank you for bringing that up.
Right.
Thank you, Dr.
Dr.
Smith,
Wheat,
for answering so many of those questions. Yes, ma'am. Who was that?
this is Antoinette.
Yes, ma'am.
I was wanting to know when at the latest will we know like the overall cost of this trip?
Well, I can tell you tonight, it will not be more than $400 because I have gotten the tour company down to $400. It will not be more than that. The deposit is really essential because that tells us who is able and interested in going, and that's next Thursday. And I plan to meet with PTA board very soon to determine what they can do in addition to what has already been accredited to individual scholars' accounts. So although I can't give you a specific answer, my best guess is deposit is due on the 24th. The following Monday, I hope to send some communication about the final cost of the trip.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something to that, Dr. Wheat?
Ms. McDuffie, yes, ma'am.
Hey, this is Miss McDuffie, y'all. So what will happen after the $100 deposit is made? I have already created the spreadsheet that shows me what balances are going to be after that. And as soon as Dr. Wheat knows what the final cost of the trip is going to be, I will immediately send home another letter that breaks it down. It takes out the candy money, subtracts that out, and it'll split in half what you all owe. So you will receive another letter very soon after that deposit is made, giving you that breakdown so that you'll know for sure what your final amounts are going to be.
There's another question in the chat from Miss Bays.
Yeah, our goal is to try to fill those seats. So the challenge is because the question is about the deposit. There's a certain number of seats on the bus. And so we want to fill those seats. So if a parent has an issue with the deposit, there may be an individual situation that we can work out, but you'll just need to talk to us because when we don't see a deposit, our assumption is that scholar is not going to attend. And so we're going to fill that seat. If there's something special going on where it's like, I can't hit the deposit on the 24th, but I may be able to get it the following week, we just need to hear from those families. Got about 4 minutes left for any additional questions.
So we do have to make sure that the student really, really wants to go and participate in this trip before making that deposit, correct?
I would think it's wise to have a conversation with your scholar about if they would like to participate. I mean, we've done the Atlanta trip on 2 separate occasions. It's a phenomenal trip. It's an action-packed trip. And SunTrust Stadium is amazing. I don't know what percentage of people can say they've been to a Major League Baseball game, first of all, or in SunTrust Stadium. I don't know. But that, along with all the things that come along with the City Pass, is still a really great value, and it's a fantastic time. But yeah, please have a conversation with your scholar. And if he or she is not interested, I completely understand.
Dr. Week, there's a question in the chat from Ms. Butler.
Help me find that, Dr. Smith. I see something about okay. What happens if you don't have enough chaperones? So we will have enough chaperones. I'll just take that one and just let you know, like, we are sending some staff members to get to the ratio that we need, but we're inviting parents, right? Like, when's the last time parents had an opportunity to travel with kids? And I think I've already heard from a high number of parents that are interested in attending. So we expect a ratio of like 6-to-1 with regard to chaperones to or scholars to chaperones. So we will definitely have enough chaperones.
Hey, Dr. Wheat.
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to take a second and say thanks to everybody who is making this possible for the 8th grade scholars. I know it's been a tough couple of years not being able to go after hearing the wonderful history of all the different field trips. So I know it's been a lot on your plate and everybody else's plate there. So thank you all very, very much.
I appreciate that, Mr. Conley. Thank you. Our kids deserve this opportunity. So thank you for that. Okay, guys, so please be on the lookout for this letter tomorrow. Ms. McDuffie is filling these out individually for every single scholar. It'll have your scholar's detailed information here. The payment will be live on K-12. It's the K12paymentcenter.com. We will put that up tomorrow. I think I think Ms. Marla can get that up and active tomorrow. So if you'd like to go ahead and make that deposit online, it's very easy online. I think there is a $1.95 processing fee that goes along with K-12. However, if you want to send a check, you certainly can. Just please do not send cash with kids to pay for a field trip, because if that gets missing, there's no way we can account for it. If you have individual questions, you are more than welcome to shoot me an email or call me at the school, okay? And I appreciate everybody's time tonight. Thanks to all of our staff members who got on the call tonight as well. I'm going to end the recording and we will make it available to any of our parents that were not able to join. Thanks so much. I hope to see your scholar with us in Atlanta. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too, Dr. Wade.
Thank you.
Dr. Wheat, this is Braden's mom. How are you?